Stay frosty and head over to easymutt.com for the cheapest mutt coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around 40 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, we are getting so close to the NFL draft, and today's video should be pretty huge. I've been going through a ton of mid-round prospects, giving you guys some of the dudes that I am targeting in the middle rounds because we're all getting together for a live stream during the draft, and there's gonna be more rounds than just the first couple rounds, man. Of course, a lot of us have our eyes on offensive lineman, cornerback in the first 2 rounds, but what are the kind of guys you want to target in the middle rounds? More specifically, what are some of my favorite players that you can target in the middle rounds so we can keep that hype level up as we continue going through the NFL draft? So it should be a good one, guys. Before we do get into this, as a reminder, you guys, let me know in the comments section below who are some of your guys in the middle rounds that you would consider draft gems. That's kind of the thing that gets thrown around a lot, but there could be guys with a lot of potential in the middle rounds that could help the Chargers out. And honestly, if there was any a year that we draft some of these guys, it's definitely this season. The Chargers do not have the best track record when it comes to drafting mid-round talent that makes a lot of difference. I think the most recent guy was Drew Tranquil, which hopefully he does return to the NFL injury-free next season. But again, let me know who you guys in the comment section below are really, really high on. Follow along with me on this list. I was going to break this up into like offense and defense stuff because there's so many players, but I said, screw it, man. Let's make one big video, get the hype levels up, and start churning that conversation in the comment section below with Chargers fans. Before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. And spoiler alert, we've got another giveaway coming up soon, so make sure you guys are prepared for that. With that, let's get into this video. Lights, camera, action. The Director's Draft Gems of the 2021 draft class. These are guys I'm really hoping the Chargers are at least considering in the middle rounds. Of course, anything could change depending on how the first couple of rounds go, but these are the guys that will get me super, super excited if the Chargers do walk away in the draft with. So we got a lot of players to go over today, guys, so let's just jump right into this one, starting with the position of cornerback. Keith Taylor out of Washington, who I think we can target between rounds 5 and 6. I see this guy with excellent traits, around 6'2", excellent tackler, could perform as an outside/sub package DB for the Chargers. And on top of that, guys, you're going to see how quickly we're going through all these players. On top of that, I did put in NFL draft comps for you guys that don't like draft comps. You're party poopers. Let's have some fun in this video, kind of help people identify, where I think or what they can compare to in the NFL. Again, don't take it literally, but it's just kind of, a little visual aid into getting a lot of information in a tiny bit of time. My NFL draft comp is going to be Holton Hill of the Minnesota Vikings. If you guys don't know who that is, look up some highlights. Next up, another guy I think a lot of Chargers fans are high on right now is Benjamin St-Juste out of Minnesota, who I think we can target between rounds 3 and 4. I would say elite traits, 6'3", very fast, the kind of defensive back that Brandon Staley could definitely work with, a mid-round guy that Brandon Staley could definitely turn into a starter. I'm going to comp Benjamin St-Juste to our guy here, Trey Flowers of the Seattle Seahawks. Again, a lot you can do with a frame like Benjamin St-Juste, and I do think if the Chargers decide to not go cornerback in the second round, maybe they even double dip, this would be a great player to target in rounds 3 to 4. And then finally, we got to talk about our guy Paulson Adebo. Now, a lot of the players you're going to see on this list, I haven't really talked about before. I wanted to make this list fresh, but Paulson Adebo, man, you cannot go in a middle round kind of thing without mentioning his name. Excellent athleticism, ball skills, ball tracking. The guy is going to be a pretty good difference maker in the NFL. I can see him as a starting outside corner. I decided to compare him to CJ Anderson. There is, not a lot of tape on CJ Anderson yet in the NFL, but I do see them as being very, very good outside corners in the league. I really do think Paulson Adebo is worth a shot. In round 3 is where I think we can get him. Next up, let's move into the safety position. The Chargers and Brandon Staley likely to use a lot of DBs this upcoming season with the way he likes to operate his brand new 4-3 defense. We're going to start with Derek Forrest out of Cincinnati, who I think we can target between rounds 5 and 6. I think this is a very versatile, always near the ball kind of player. I think matching him up and giving him a guy like Nasir Adderley and Derwin James back there, he's going to do very, very well in a Chargers defense. I see him more as a developmental safety. You mix him in there again, maybe 3 safety looks. He's going to look very, very good in powder blue if the Chargers decide to go after him in rounds 5 through 6. I'm going to compare him to a Chuck Clark of the Baltimore Ravens. Next up, a guy, I think I have talked about this guy before, maybe a long time ago. Here's a refresher, Andre Cisco. I like the energy in Andre Cisco, man. The guy plays fast. He is also a playmaker. 26 picks plus passes broken up in 24 career games is ridiculous. I view him as a starting free safety caliber player, and I do compare him to a guy like Eddie Jackson. I forgot to put down the round that we can target him. I think it's around 3 to 4. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's around 3 to 4. Honestly, guys, Eddie Jackson comparison, I'm not going to throw that around, man. Eddie Jackson, a great safety in this league. I think Andre Cisco, is cut from the same cloth. Next up, we got a guy that a lot of other Chargers fans very, very high on right now in Richie Grant, who we can target in round 3 out of UCF. Again, very versatile. I see him as a starting free safety. You can move him around all around the field. I'm going to compare him to Jordan Whitehead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So those are going to be your safeties. Next up, let's move into the position of tight end. Wow, we are moving quick. Now, the Chargers, after moving on from Hunter Henry, definitely want to look into the future as far as who we want to bring in for the tight end position, starting with here with Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame. Round 3 is where I think we can target him. I do think he's a very decent blocker, great pass catcher, maybe a developmental tight end 2, tight end 1. I think he does have the potential to be a tight end 1 in the future. We're going to compare him to Drew Sample of the Cincinnati Bengals, who definitely had somewhat of a breakout season last year. I think the potential is definitely there. My next and only other tight end that I have targeted is in round 7. He comes out of Virginia, Tony Poljan. This man is 6'7". I hope with the picture you guys can see just how huge of a human being he is. Very, very decent blocker. Maybe not the best pass catcher in the world, but I do think the Chargers at this point with Jared Cook and Chicken Parm on the roster need to find someone that's a good blocker. And I think a 6'7" tower, at the tight end position definitely could get it done. I'm going to compare him to a guy that Chargers fans do know, and Scott Chandler, of course, of the Buffalo Bills, but drafted by the San Diego Chargers. If you guys are Chargers vets, you will definitely know who that is. He definitely turned into a really good tight end in the league. Next up, offensive tackle, starting with James Hudson. I read an article about this guy a couple weeks ago, looked into him more. I think this guy has a tremendous ceiling, maybe a little bit raw, but a really good developmental backup in my opinion. So I'm going to see him more as a depth piece, maybe a developmental left tackle. Definitely kind of guy that you want behind the Chargers offensive line that is riddled with injuries year in and year out. I'm going to compare him to Charles Leno Jr. of the Chicago Bears. I do think there's a lot of potential there for him to blossom into a nice tackle in the league. Next up, we got a huge human being in Stone Forsythe out of Florida. I think we can pick this guy up in round 3 to 4. Oh, by the way, guys, James Hudson, I forgot to mention. I think we can get him in round 6. As far as Stone Forsythe, rounds 3 to 4, 6'8". Solid pass protector in my opinion. I think he's got the potential of like maybe a swing tackle in 2021, but definitely a developmental left tackle. Very, very huge. I think, again, if you got a quarterback like Justin Herbert standing at 6'6", go ahead and throw those giant offensive linemen on the line and see what kind of work can be done. I'm going to compare him to Ty Neshke, back in the day, kind of a journeyman who definitely did have his moments. So I think that's a great comp right there. Next up, let's go into the interior defensive line. The Chargers, historically, for the last couple of seasons, not great against the run, and I'm looking to kind of help change that. Of course, the Chargers picking up Linval Joseph last season, definitely a step in the right direction. I'm kind of looking in that same direction with this man right here, Tyler Shelvin. I have talked about him, but he really is one of my favorite mid-round prospects. Out of LSU, I think we can get him between rounds 3 and 4. A monster. 6'3", 362 pounds, a great future at nose tackle. And again, we're talking about Linval Joseph, who might not be on this team post 2021. I think Tyler Shelvin will be a great replacement in the long run. And I do think even now in 2021, he could be an early down run defender. You can, mix and match him with Linval Joseph, eventual starting nose tackle. I'm going to compare him to, Brandon Williams of the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, you guys know Brandon Williams. This guy's been a beast in the run game for the Ravens for quite some time. And man, dude, I think the Chargers could definitely use some help against the run. Next up, we got Khyiris Tonga coming out of BYU, who can target between rounds 6 and 7. Huge 6'4", 322-pound behemoth. I like him against the run a lot. Again, a guy that you can use in early downs, maybe a future starter or depth guy at nose tackle. Definitely want to make sure we add at least 1 or 2 more bodies to that defensive line if we can, especially depth this season. I'm going to compare him to a Dalvin Tomlinson of the New York Giants. Next up, this is a segment that I know a lot of guys have been waiting me to talk about, the wide receivers. Director, this draft class of wide receiver is pretty deep. There's a lot of talent to be found, even in the middle rounds, and I think that the Chargers should definitely pull the trigger on at least one guy. If we don't go early, let's target a guy like Simi Fehoko. This would put 2 Fehokos on the Chargers roster. Of course, maybe they can get together and bring us that epic moment of the haka like we saw on Hard Knocks. Out of Stanford, I think we can target this guy between rounds 4 and 5. I do think he was a special team standout. I have that in my notes here. Size 6'4", very fast. Put him on a go route. I think we can look at him as more of a rotational wide receiver, special teams guy. Maybe in the future, if the Chargers part ways with a guy like Mike Williams, which I hope we do not, you would still have a target that's 6'4", very fast. I'm going to compare him to a Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. Next up, here's a guy that one of my guys in the comments, one of my subscribers was definitely trying to get my eyes on. And honestly, I looked all around the net for him, looking for some tape, and I found some. And honestly, what I did see was pretty good. Michael Strawn out of Charleston, a D2 school. You can get him maybe in round 7 or undrafted, quite honestly, but physically gifted, 6'5", fast, needs work in route running. But honestly, if you're looking that late at wide receiver, you're looking for potential. And I honestly think he could be a potential late round undrafted gem. Very, very good ball skills. I see him kind of like a developmental X receiver and compare him to maybe a guy like Allen Lazard. Fast, very lengthy. I think he could definitely thrive in the NFL. And lastly, this guy, I started looking into him maybe just a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, very, very impressed with him. I think he would fit the Chargers beautifully. His name is Shea Smith out of South Carolina, a guy we can target in round 7, maybe even undrafted. Honestly, guys, fast. He ran a 4.33 unofficial. Very solid hands. 12 drops in 262 targets. I see him as a developmental slot receiver. Very, very good hands. I think is very comes in handy when you're talking about the slot. You can put him on special teams. And honestly, this comparison will really paint a big story for me, at least. Jamison Crowder reminds me of a faster Jamison Crowder, and I think that's exactly the kind of wide receiver that a guy like Justin Herbert could certainly utilize. Next up, let's go into edge. I may have cheated a little bit in this one, sue me, but I'm really high on this guy, and I really hope the Chargers are considering him. Joseph Osai out of Texas. He's a guy you'd probably want to target in round 2. He could certainly go in the first round, but maybe if he drops into the third round, you really got to consider it. I just like Joseph Osai, especially as a fit for this new Chargers 3-4 team. Explosive. He's a turnover creator. I love his energy. Maybe he needs some work in zone, but he can drop into zone if you have to. I see him as a starting edge right away, though, for the Chargers if they decide to target him in round 2, and I'm going to compare him to Takk McKinley of the Atlanta Falcons. Next up, this guy's been kind of on Chargers fans' radar very recently, and Peyton Turner out of Houston, who can be targeted in rounds 3 to 4. I think he might be starting to climb draft boards just a little bit. He may not last in those rounds very long. Great size, strength, 6'5". He's got interior pass rush appeal as well. A lot of Chargers. I think he's actually spoken to the Chargers, so maybe a good potential of him coming to the Bolts in the near future. I'm going to compare him to an Emmanuel Ogbah. I really do think, again, going into 3-4, he might be the kind of guy that you can fit into that system and have a lot of success with. Next up, we've got our interior offensive line. There's a couple of names that came to mind for me, but I didn't want to take too much time on here, even though I do think the Chargers should definitely go after depth at this position. I'm looking at Jack Anderson out of Texas Tech, who you can target between rounds 5 and 6. I see him as a very versatile guard. Okay, you can play him left, you can play him right. Great depth. He could definitely develop into a starting guard and compete in 2022. Of course, guys on our roster right now, I think Ode Ibushi is just a one-year deal, right? Matt Filer, I think he was more than 1 year, right? So definitely throw him in the rotation, see if you can get something out of him. I think he'd be a great fit with the Chargers. I actually did not put a comp down for him, so my bad on there, guys. Next up is linebacker. I got a couple of guys I'm certainly very excited about. Guys that I think if the Chargers hit in these mid rounds could be huge playmakers for the Bolts. The first one's going to be Dylan Moses out of Alabama. I'm seeing him listed in rounds 4 to 5. I really do think he should be going a little bit higher. He's got great size and speed, 6'3". You can blitz him. He's very versatile. I think he could be a starter, honestly, in his first season. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe he's just quality depth for the Chargers. Rotate him in there with Drew Tranquill. Again, the Chargers, as far as linebacker, you know, I think Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquill can definitely hold the fort down, but you're going to want some guys behind him, and Dylan Moses is a guy I'd be very excited to be on the Bolts in that rotation. So I'm going to compare him to a C.J. Mosley. Again, maybe I'm a little too high on him. Maybe I'm not, but I really like the guy. I think he's got a lot of potential. And then finally, my other linebacker here is going to be Charles Snowden. This guy's ridiculous, man. Huge, freakish athlete. Ran a 4.51. You guys want to guess how tall he is? Charles Snowden is 6'6". He's great in shallow coverage. That kind of length, you can do a lot with that. He's very versatile too. When I'm thinking about players that would fit the kind of versatility that a Brandon Staley's looking for, because again, he kind of views his players like chess pieces, right? Like, where can I put this guy that's going to throw off my opponent, et cetera, et cetera. I like this guy quite a bit, man. I think he can put on some more weight. He's a little lanky, but I do like the fit for Brandon Staley. I see him as a versatile outside linebacker that you can blitz, you can put him in coverage. He's going to remind me a little bit of Anthony Barr because of that. Maybe not the best comp, but you know, it's kind of really hard to find outside linebackers that do what guys like Anthony Barr and Charles Snowden did. And then finally, my last position on this, we're not going to do quarterback. We don't need quarterback. Get over it. The last position on this video, kind of surprising to me, is running back, but I cheated a little bit too. I'm targeting, at least in this draft, Ben Mason out of Michigan, who could be found in rounds 7 or undrafted. Dudes, I can't tell you how much I like this guy, man. He's more of a fullback tight end hybrid, but he's huge. 6'3", 256 pounds. He could still put on some more weight. Again, a hybrid fullback, short yardage. I compared him to Patrick Ricard of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, here's the deal. The reason I'm excited to kind of share this with you guys is because I think the Chargers, you know, I like Gabe Neighbors a lot, but getting that kind of fullback, the Kyle Juszczyk, the Patrick Ricard, I think that could be very, very good in a Chargers Justin Herbert offense. You know, you put him, Austin Eckler, you know, who knows who our number 2 running back is by 2022. You develop this guy into that kind of playmaker. Oh my goodness, man. The Chargers receiving threats from the backfield, ridiculous. So Ben Mason's one of my favorite late round or undrafted guys. If he goes undrafted, I hope he's one of the first players that the Chargers are talking to after the draft. So in the comment section below, guys, super fun video. Thank you guys so much. Leave your opinions down in the comments because I want to see your guys' draft gems as well. It's going to be a really exciting couple of days in the draft. Of course, rounds 1, 2, and 3, we're all going to be screaming, you know, on the live stream coming up at the end of the month. But I also want to be very excited about the rounds afterwards too. So just kind of having a lot of names in the back of my mind for us to get excited about. Maybe he's there, maybe he's near, you know, the rankings when we're picking. Let's get excited about Chargers, or about the Chargers draft together. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. A couple of reminders here. I do have another giveaway coming up really soon. If you guys follow my community posts, you will have seen a preview there. One of them is going to be for everybody. All you got to do is be subscribed to the channel. If you want to like sub now just to be prepared, I wouldn't hate you for it. And the other one's going to be for my members. Again, just a gesture of thanks to everybody that supports this channel. especially in that way. And then finally, guys, get hyped. We are getting a huge stream at the end of the month for the NFL draft. I'm going to be here all 3 days, and then in between we'll have videos about who the Chargers decided to take. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.